Welcome, everybody. We're back with the next installment of the Female Executive Interview Series here in Asia. Today, we're very lucky to have with us Elizabeth Faber. Elizabeth has a truly tremendous background, one that has spanned from the US to China, now doing an Asia role based here in Singapore. Elizabeth has been with Deloitte for over 25 years. She's a partner as well as the chief of staff in the business and a member of the executive committee. Elizabeth of the firm. Elizabeth also chairs the D&I Council as well as the social impact program for the company. So a lot of today's topics and questions will be well into her passion and something we're quite eager to hear. All right, let's start it off. Question one, can you think of over these years a lesson that you've learned from your experiences that is quite unique to being a woman?
Yeah, well, I was reflecting a little bit on this, and I've had a lot of firsts in my career, really starting 26 years ago, as you said, with Deloitte. When I first joined the firm, I knew I needed to find an organization with a global footprint because I was a part of a dual career couple at that point. Mm-hmm. So as a result, my career and my husband's career, not very easy to manage this over time. And we knew we needed organizations that would support a variety of different options along the way. So certainly I've come to my leaders and managers many times during my career with yet another opportunity for us as a family to make a decision that would require a move either within businesses or in geographies. So I've had a number of firsts and conversations like that. I'm pretty sure I was the first person in the China firm at Deloitte to go on a part-time arrangement because of when I gave birth to my first daughter, because I could tell the discussions. At that point, our China firm was probably 5,000 or 6,000 people. And I could tell the discussions that the HR team and my leaders were having were the first time they figured out how to make it work, but they were enlightened. They knew that was important to keep me and also for the future sustainability of the practice. So I'm pretty sure I was the first part-time arrangement in our China firm. And I've been the first in a number of the roles that I've taken, either now as the Chief Talent Officer for Deloitte Asia Pacific. This is the first person in a role like this across AP. Sometimes I've been the first to write my own job description. That's always fun to do. So I've had a chance to really form roles, either creating them from scratch or being the first one in a role that will sustain longer term.
Next, the biggest challenge for the next generation of women and female leaders behind you?
Well, I hope that the challenges that our next generation of women have are different than the challenges that we have. I'm not confident yet that will be the case, but I hope they're dealing with different, more evolved challenges. Lately, I'm very concerned about the impact of the pandemic on women, particularly around representation in the workplace, representation as leaders, the impact on a gender pay gap, and even more fundamentally, the lost generation in education. So I think those are going to be some of the challenges of the next generation, particularly if this pandemic continues like we expect it will for the foreseeable future. I think that the impact in Asia is probably less severe than in the Americas and in Europe. But nonetheless, we're paying very close attention to that in Asia Pacific as well.
Understood. With that next generation in mind, what strategies or advice would you have to women in often male-dominated positions or industries?
One thing I've learned is to ask for it. So if there's something that you desire or you are interested in, go for it, ask for it. And I learned that pretty late in my career, that I found that by the time I had the nerve and the courage to ask for something, everyone else already felt like I was ready for it. So, just being assertive. And if there's something that you desire, to go for it. That's how I made partner. In fact, I finally had the courage to ask to become a partner, and it happened very quickly. And I just wonder if I had asked, 3 years ago or 5 years ago, would have happened then too? Maybe not, but at least get it out there. I think it's important to figure out who the male champions are in your organization and to find a sponsor. So they may be different. Your male champions may not be a sponsor, and a sponsor would be somebody who's willing to pound the table for you and to put their own career on the line for yours to really sponsor you in a very proactive, active way. So those would be some tips that I've learned.
So with that in mind, greatest risk you've ever taken? Definitely
moving to China 3 months pregnant without a job. So that would be a risk. I'm a planner. That was not part of the plan. And, I came up with my lists of why we should move to China and why we should stay tucked away in the U.S. And ultimately, my husband and I decided to go for it and move to Shanghai. I was with Deloitte, but didn't have a defined role in the China firm at that point. And I was ready to deliver our first child. So that would definitely be one of the biggest risks.
How do you empower and engage with others?
I think that I've been much more deliberate about this point lately in asking people, are you okay? In taking time to have the small talk to really understand what people are dealing with. It's been, I've done a lot more of this, been much more careful about understanding and leading people now than I would have been a year ago when we're all just kind of heads down trying to deliver. So I have found just asking, are you okay? What, how is your family? How are you doing? Let's take a step back. Just that type of conversation has been really helpful for me in leading more effectively. I also try to be inclusive in my meetings, and I will call on people. So in these formats where we have so many Zoom participants all in little boxes on a screen, I will call on people, not to put them on the spot, but just to hear from them, whether they're on video or not. But I do make sure that everyone has a voice. I'll try the tactics of having the person who speaks the most speak last, and you really go around the room and hear from everyone before the more dominant person has a chance to speak again. So these are just some tactics that have helped, particularly in our current environment.
Along this journey of yours, can you think of a key leadership lesson you've really learned and taken with you?
Well, back to that partner conversation, having as much confidence in myself as others do in me. So I have definitely learned that. I think that we as women in particular overthink things. Of course, it's a bit of a generalization, but just being confident in myself, because often others have more confidence in what I can accomplish than I do myself.
What makes you doubt yourself? Then how do you manage it?
Yeah, they're definitely related questions. So, the imposter syndrome is very real, and I see that in myself. And when I first heard about this as an actual thing, I just felt so relieved. I felt so validated, because I definitely had that impression, particularly stepping into a big role like my current role as talent leader for AP. I just thought, that it's so, who am I to take this role? And so when I first started to dig into this imposter syndrome, I felt so validated. And in fact, our global chairman, Sharon Thorne, has done a podcast about her dealing with imposter syndrome, and she still is impacted by it. And here is one of the preeminent leaders in our global organization. So for me, I manage that by, first of all, acknowledging it, and then just doing the work. So over-indexing on preparation, making sure I am ready. I don't do well at winging it. I also try to hang out with positive people who build me up, and people who are energy zappers who really give me more energy and not sappers. They don't detract from where I want to go and my sense of energy and optimism. So those are some ways that I deal with self-doubt when I have it.
Why is being a mentor so important to you?
Well, mentorship is important to me, and I have benefit from being a mentor and having mentors. As a more senior leader now, my pivot is towards sponsorship. As I mentioned before, I think this is really more important for me as a leader to embrace, is being a sponsor for women and men, but especially women who may not have the visibility otherwise, and expecting my colleagues, my peers, other leaders with whom I work to do the same. So this is a real focus for us, certainly in Deloitte, is being more deliberate about sponsorship programs. Mentorship is definitely important, and that will always be there, but that's a little bit more passive, a little bit more not as much skin in the game that I have on their success, whereas being a sponsor of women in particular is really where I start to spend my own political capital to help women succeed, and their success is my success. I am measured on how well they do. I mean, that does move the dial. So this is really a focus that I've had, and we're encouraging our leaders across Deloitte to take to, is sponsoring women to the next level.
What energizes you the most?
Well, sleep would. I do like to exercise. I do like to get outside and exercise. So I do look at my schedule and try to find at least one call a day I can take walking around the block, particularly when I'm working from home. And then each morning I get outside to do some sort of exercise. All that gives me energy. So maybe that's why I don't get as much sleep. But also seeing others succeed. So seeing people excel, either professionally or personally, it gives me a lot of energy and really helps motivate me too.
Elizabeth Faber, Chief Talent Officer, Asia Pacific for Deloitte. You've been humble with us, authentic. You've shared vulnerabilities and your stories. We can't thank you enough.